Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. My name is Lee Gazzett. I work for SAP Education. Let me present Caroline Kinsman, a Senior Education Architect who will be joining us today. Feel free to raise any questions in the chat box. We will leave some time aside at the end for Caroline to take any questions. I hope you have a lovely session today. Caroline, over to you.
Thanks very much, Lee, and hello, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. Thank you for joining us. So today we're going to talk about SAP Learning Hub. You can see the title of the presentation there, Knowledge Fuels Digital Transformation. Just to give you a little introduction to myself, so I've been with SAP now for 19 years in the education team, looking at all the different aspects of education. And since the inception of SAP Learning Hub, I've been the Learning Hub solution owner for EMEA, for the EMEA region. So welcome, and we will kick off. So first of all, what is it about Learning Hub? What's the backstory to it? Well, one of the things that we're finding now increasingly in the digital world and in digital transformations, but actually also in the classical world of SAP, is that enablement is essential for the success of every transformation. It always has been, it always will be. We need to think about enablement of our people. And skills are one of the most important building blocks. So people need to be skilled up to be able to use the products, and it's particularly important in digital transformation. And the stats show this. I don't know if you can see all the details at the bottom, but this is from, these are some American statistics from 2014, and it looks at the different types of influences in digital transformation, and skills are one of the biggest most important things that we need. And equally, if we don't have skills, the lack of knowledge is one of the biggest barriers. And in fact, it's the number 2 in terms of barriers to success when you're looking at transformations and IT transformations, alongside data privacy and security and legacy IT systems. Knowledge and competency is one of the issues if we don't have it. And the learning capability gap is actually widening. So you can see the stats, you can read those for yourself here. But one of the things is that not having access to useful training information is a big blocker. It's a big training challenge. And you can see also that over on the right-hand side, that there is a large proportion of SAP professionals who actually prefer to do their training online nowadays as well. So we've got a couple of things working together here. We need enablement. Lack of enablement is a blocker. Not having access to training materials is an issue. And a lot of people, as we move into the digital world, as we move forward in the 21st century, actually don't want traditional training either. They don't want to come to classroom. They want to be able to learn for themselves and use e-learning. So this is where the Learning Hub comes in. So the Learning Hub allows us to put together all of the learning content that we have into a single place so that you can access it as and when you need it to build up your knowledge, either in a particular solution and deepen that knowledge or across a breadth of solutions. So the positive that we get from the Learning Hub is that it allows us to access more content. So if we compare it to a training course, for example, with a training course, you go on it, you can access only the content for that training course, clearly. And also, it means that when you come away, you've got a static piece of knowledge. So when you attend a training course, you get the latest version, clearly, but it doesn't update over time. With the Learning Hub, you actually get access to everything that we have, so all of the content, but equally it's updated on a regular basis, so it's not static. So if you look at something today and then go back to it in 12 months' time, you're going to have an updated view in that same learning content. Now, in the digital world, we've also got some other challenges in terms of training. And it's about access, really, I think, if you compare to the traditional training methods of a classroom. So, for example, there's a requirement typically when we talk about digital implementations, when we're talking about cloud implementations, for example, to access information faster. We need to be able to get that information faster and upskill everybody faster because the implementations are a lot quicker. We typically, nowadays, need to learn more. So typically what we're finding, especially in the professional side of things, is that we need a greater breadth of knowledge across multiple solutions, and we need a greater depth of knowledge into the detail. We also have people who are spread around different locations within the business. That could be within a single country, or that could actually be global. So we need some way of being able to train our team who might not all be in the same place. And because of the move to cloud products and the way that they update, some of these are updating on a quarterly basis. And on that quarterly basis, that means we're getting new features, new functions, and so on. So there is a need to be upskilling on a continuous basis. But equally, we don't want to lose the benefits that we get from the classroom. So in the classroom, we're learning together. We've got other people. We can share ideas. We can speak to an instructor. And obviously, the downside to a pure e-learning is you don't have that. So we need to think about how we mitigate that as well. And then one of the key things in this fast-changing world is that we need to be learning ahead. We need to be prepared for what's coming. We need to be the thought leaders of what we're going to be implementing next. And, of course, you can't really do that with the traditional classroom model. So using the Learning Hub, which we're going to have a look at now, we can meet these requirements in a new digitized format. So what is the Learning Hub? Well, first of all, it's a digital platform. It's a platform for all of our content, our education content. Technically, it's based on SuccessFactors Learning, but you don't need a separate license. That's just the technical platform for it. And it's hosted in the cloud. What it includes are a lot of different aspects that look at and replicate in some ways the traditional model. So one of the things that we have that we just spoke about in the traditional model is we have people. We have instructors and we have other participants. Now, obviously, if you're learning for yourself in e-learning, you don't have an instructor and a participant. But using our learning room technology, and this is based on JAM, on SAP JAM technology, the learning rooms are hosted by instructors and consultants, and anybody who has access to the Learning Hub can join them, and they can ask questions of the instructor, they can enter discussions with the other participants in the room. From time to time, the instructors will host live webinars. So this mimics the interaction that you get with other people. We have all the content. So in terms of the content repository, we have all the education content. So the digitized formats of the manuals that we use in a classroom training, they're all in there. Many of those have been converted to an e-learning format with voiceovers and embedded demonstrations. So all of those are in there as well. But in addition to that, there is other content. We have early knowledge content that comes from our system developers that give us the latest and greatest on the latest versions. And we also have bookboon.com content. So we partner with Bookboon. They do soft skills and business skills e-learning, and you'll find over 500 pieces of their content also in the Learning Hub. There are some reporting options. So when we are looking at our public versions, and these are quite limited because they're limited to yourself. But you can report on everything that you've done so far. You can get a list. We can print off certificates for the courses we've completed. For the SCORM compliant courses, so the e-learnings and the e-books, we can track, or you can track how far through you are, etc. So there are various reports that we can take advantage of. In terms of the learning management capabilities, all of that is done by SAP in the background. So the options that you can see here, for example, in terms of uploading your own content and so forth, those are in the private versions. But in terms of the public versions, all of the learning management is done by SAP. We load up the content, we update the content, we manage the users, etc. So you don't need to worry about any of that. And all of this can be supported by SAP Live Access. So this is something that, if you think about the traditional model, we've talked about the content, the manual, we've talked about the people, which is provided by the learning rooms. So what about the system? So the system is provided via SAP Live Access. So this is currently not part of the Learning Hub itself, but it is something extra. If you have access to the Learning Hub, you can then request Live Access vouchers on top. And of course, the other thing is that the Learning Hub is available 24/7. So whenever you want to learn, it's there. And so whether that be during the day at work, or whether it be when you get home at the evening, or if you want to spend your weekends learning, you can do that as well. So regardless of where you are, 24 hours a day, it's there and available for you. So just looking at a couple of the items in particular here. So we have, first of all, the learning rooms, the social learning. So we'll go in and have a look at these, but they're hosted using SAP Jam. There's an instructor, or it could be multiple instructors, in fact, that are hosting these learning rooms. We've got a variety of them. I think we're approaching 70 of them nowadays, that focus on different solution areas. And the instructors in there will provide additional information. They will provide suggested guidance on what they think you should be studying or what you could be studying next. You can ask questions, and you can interact with other participants in those learning rooms. So collaborative social learning, whenever you want, some guided learning maps coming from the instructors, and the ability to self-pace your study in there and interact with the other people. So it's hosted, moderated by the instructors. As I said, they will add additional information. That could include videos, it could be blogs, it could be quizzes, things like that. And it allows you to collaborate. Now, to also help you navigate around the solutions in the Learning Hub, we have learning journeys. We have a huge list of these learning journeys, which you can access from inside the Learning Hub and from outside the Learning Hub. If you're inside the Learning Hub, then you can jump from these learning journeys into the specific pieces of content. But what a learning journey is it provides a suggested path through the learning for a particular solution. So starting off with an introduction to the topic area, taking you on to the more detailed business process-focused content, then into the configuration, and if it's appropriate, the certification. And you'll have links through to the certification, the relevant certification there. So it allows you to visualize your learning path, to be able to see all the offerings for that particular topic that you're interested in, and integrating all the different options. So that will include the digitized books, it will include the early knowledge, it will include the learning rooms in there. And it's also available as a trackable program. So we're working to convert all of the learning journeys to trackable programs. But essentially, what that means is you'll be able to select them from inside the Learning Hub and put the whole set of the content into your list of learning that you want to follow. So the learning programs that we've got in there, the content. You can access it, you can filter it, and so it's quite straightforward to search for specific pieces of content. We can filter by solution area, we can filter by the different types of content. We can use any of the training material. It's just a one-click access. Once you've found it, you go straight into it. So you can think about designing your learning plans as to which items you want to follow, and you can pop them into your list of learning that you want to follow. And you can set due dates for your learning plan completion. And then, of course, with the reporting tools, you can then see how far you've got through, how far you're up to with everything. The e-books that are available and the e-learnings that are available. So the e-books, first of all, these are the digitized versions of the courses, of the course manuals, but equally, we also have the book boom content as well. The e-books themselves are available both online and offline. So if you're mobile, there is an offline consumption mode so that you can follow a course, for example, when you're traveling to work, on the bus, on the train, wherever you might be. And you can bookmark your progress, etc., within them so that you can easily find where you're up to. And as I mentioned before, there's the book boom content on the soft skills and management skills, etc. Now, the hands-on practice, as I mentioned, is the live access. So it's quite a small shot here, but this is a shot of the live access catalogue screen. So you can go in and we have systems that are relevant for specific courses. So if you are following the ebook for a particular course, you can pick up the live access system and it will have all the relevant data in it to allow you to complete the exercises and so on. So it's set up ready to go for the exercises in the book you're following. So the live access systems, there are multiple systems, and typically we access them in batches of 20 hours. That's not continuous, by the way. We don't expect you to sit there for 20 hours from start to finish and do all your exercises. That would be over the course of a month. And we've got approximately 400 of these live access systems now that support the training manual. Okay, so I'm just going to toggle across into the system. I hope it's still there and not timed out. So just bear with me a moment. And you should now be seeing the SAP Learning Hub home screen. So it's in the home screen here, you can see it's tile driven. So there's multiple tiles here. We can move them about. You can put them in your preferred order. And the tiles focus on different aspects. And so just to point out a few things to you, we do have a welcome tile here, and I would encourage everybody to have a look at this. There are two things on here in particular. There is an onboarding course that will take you through all the basics of the navigation. And there's also a welcome learning room. So this learning room is also hosted by SAP people, but instead of this being instructors looking at specific solutions, SAP solutions, the welcome learning room is hosted by our team who look after the Learning Hub itself. So in there you'll be able to ask questions about the Learning Hub. We have several assistance tiles. You can see there's one on the left here. So you've got a glossary, instructions on how to get mobile with the Learning Hub itself, and again pointing us back to the onboarding course, and then product documentation. So if you've got any queries about browsers and stuff like that, you'll find them under the product documentation. There's also a help and support tile where you can access facts, you can access more documentation, and the technical requirements for the system. If you need it, you've got to click through for technical support. So that's all there to help you. We're going to go into the content in just a second, but there's an access tile down here on the left-hand side on my screen where you can go into specific pieces of the content. So you can go into the learning rooms, you can go into the live access, And there's also a catalogue that you can download that lists all of the content in the Learning Hub. We have in the middle, you can see on my screen, a news section. I'll just scroll down a little bit. This is a rolling tile. You can scroll down on it, and we will post updated information in here as time goes on. So whether the interface has changed, whether we're launching new learning rooms, whether we've got live sessions, etc., etc., that will be posted here, and you can have a look at it. And then you can also see that I've got a specific tile here on SAP Leonardo. So obviously this is an area of interest for many people at the moment. So we've got a bespoke tile here that's pointing you into all the content for Leonardo in there. Just a quick word on the reputations and missions. They are what they sound like. It's badges and challenges, and to make learning fun within the Learning Hub. So I'm going to go into the content. You can use the access tile down here, or you can navigate using the buttons at the top. So if I drop down next to where it says home, I've got some options here. I've got learning rooms, I've got content, and I've got the learning journey. So I'm very quickly going to go through all three, just a whistle-stop tour. So first of all, the learning journey. Now, this is the list of paths through the different topic areas. Incidentally, the pop-up that you may be able to see on my screen, this is something you can switch off, but as you move between the pages in the Learning Hub, the pop-up will pop up with the latest information. So I'm just going to hit the continue button. So here I am in the learning journeys. Now the learning journeys screen, this is, as you can see, if I just scroll down a little bit, a list of different solutions within SAP. So we're starting off there, Ariba, then we've got Business One, B2B for HANA, ERP. If I go further down, we'll find Leonardo, S for HANA, pretty much everything. I'm just going to jump into one of these. I'm just randomly choose one. So CRM. Off I am into CRM. And when the learning journey opens up, what you will have is a path through. So typically, if there is a relevant learning room for this content, you will see the learning room first. It will point you to it. So if you hover over the tiles or over the entries here, more information will pop up. And if you're in the Learning Hub, then you can click directly into it. There's a learning room click. It then will progress through from the introductory courses through to the more detailed courses. So you might have an overview. So here we've got an overview of the CRM solution. And actually, it's pointing us, it's looking forward here as well. So from CRM, the next step would be to look into hybrid going forward. So we have that too. Then we move down past the overviews into becoming fully competent. So this typically is introducing the configuration type courses. And then if it's relevant, there will be a certification at the bottom of this. Now, if you hover over any of these items here, if I hover over a course, then the options for that course will open up. So it will point me to the classroom course, and that will take you back to the web shop if you want to go live with it. It will point you to the live access, if that's an option. And we will have the, also in these items, you can see the little pictures at the bottom, incidentally. The little pictures tell you what types of items you've got access to. So looking at the one I'm looking at the moment, I've got live access, I've got the ebook in the Learning Hub, I've got the e-learning in there as well. And if I click on any of those items, it will take me directly into the Learning Hub itself. For the certification, there's a click through to the certification details, again in the web shop on the certification page, and that will tell you all about what you need to know and so on. So those are the learning journeys, and you can navigate about in those. If I go to my learning content, again, I've got my little pop-up. And in my learning content, this is where I can see what I've chosen already, and also I can browse the full catalogue. So here in my learning content, I'm seeing what I've chosen already, and I've got a variety of items in my tile here of my active courses. Now, typically, I wouldn't advise anybody to have as many as I've got in here. I've only got this many due to the amount of demos that I've done, because this is, in fact, our demo version of the system here. Typically, I would recommend no more than a curriculum, no more than a learning map's worth at once. Otherwise, you know, it would be a bit difficult to find things. But you'll see them there, and I can jump into any of the courses from here. I just have to click on them, and I will see the courses. So we've got ebooks, I've got live accesses, and so on. We can select whole curricula, and they will appear under the big green spot. And here in this tile, I have in the middle, I have my learning history. So the learning history allows me to see the items that I've picked up recently. If you hit the view all, it will show you everything that you've put into your list of learning and what's complete and what's not. And if it's completed, you can actually print out a certificate over on the right-hand side, and you can also rate the courses. And we would request that you do rate the courses, because that gives feedback to other learners as well. Now, if I want to browse, because of course the first time I go in, there won't be any content in my list, so I need to go and have a look. So I can go and browse all my titles in the Find Courses tile on the top. Incidentally, you can see at the bottom of the page, before I go to browse my titles, there's a recommendations. So as time goes on, the system learns what you're interested in and will make recommendations for other courses. Because I've not actually completed anything in this demo system, the only thing it's recommended to me is the onboarding. And I would recommend that you start there, but actually it will give you some more interesting stuff as time goes on. But if I browse the titles, then you can see here, again, my onboarding's coming up first before anything else, because that's recommended. You've got different options here. If I just scroll down a little bit. So you can browse by tile, you can browse by list, so you can move it across if you want to. And you can see here, obviously, it's just giving me a whole list of items. I'm just going to go back. You can also browse by subject area. And now you can see I'm moving into the catalogue itself. So once I browse by subject area, yes, I can pick up an area, let's say CRM, since that was what I was looking at the item for before. I can open up the CRM and look at specific areas, or maybe I'll just stick with the CRM top level for the moment. Okay, equally there's a search at the top. Rather than browsing by subject area, you can put a keyword in. But I browse by CRM, so now in my list I've just got the CRM content. And you should be able to see on the left-hand side now, I can refine this. So I can look at different course levels, first of all, and I can choose, I want an overview course for CRM. I want a detailed config course for CRM. I want to look at Delta knowledge, etc. So this will just hone it down for you if you limit by course level. And we can also limit by delivery method. So if you're looking for the learning room, then you can find the learning room here. If you want an e-learning, then you can select by e-learning. Or if you want a handbook or a digital e-book, then you can select those as well. And it will limit the courses that you've got over on the right-hand side. For the courses that are then listed, before you launch in and start the course, if you click on the line item, then more item details will pop up underneath. So you will find, for example, which software component this particular content is based on. You'll find a little list of the course content to give you a bit of an overview. So when I'm looking at this now, I've gone into CRM sales, I can see my list of content. At this point, I can think, okay, this wasn't the course I was intending. I'll go and find a different one before I've launched into it and got halfway through before I've realised it wasn't for me. So it allows you to make some decisions before launching the course, basically. But what you can also do is then once you've decided on which course you want, you either click Start Course and you'll go into it directly, or you can assign to me and it puts it in your list for consumption later on. So what's this one? That one's a handbook. You can see I've got some open SAP has popped up in here. They all work in the same way. You click the Start Course over on the right-hand side. I've got an overview of CRM and e-learning here. And with this one, you may be able to see, I think your screen might be a tad behind mine, but you might be able to see that the overview of the CRM solution is already assigned to me. So I've already popped it into my learning list. So, but I can still go ahead and start the course here. And then at this point, it will go up to the cloud and pull down the information. Here I've got the content list, and then I can go into whichever chapter of the e-learning I want to follow, and here we go. Now it's launching. It's analysing my system configuration to see whether I've got all the relevant technicals, and if I have, I can hit the play button, and then I'll be going into the course. So it's as simple as that to bring the content up. Once the content is up, you can see this one's an e-learning. It will give you approximate durations. It will give you the list of items that it's going to be following in this particular unit. There is down at the bottom a menu. So with the menu, you can jump to any specific page. You just open up the individual chapters and you can jump directly into a particular page. Now, I've got my volume turned off in here. You can, it's loading at the bottom, but if I...
of SAP CRM are as follows. Provides quick and easy access to key customer account information.
I'll just switch her off again. You may have been able to hear her talking then. The lady's talking over the top of it. So with these e-learnings, you'll get the voiceovers for each of the screens. It's a presentation type mode. You saw it was moving as we were going through. This one's a very basic screen we're looking at here. If I page through, you'll also find in these e-learnings embedded demonstrations. I'm not going to show the demo. You just click on the watch and it will pop up. It's recorded in another one of our education tools, Enable Now, and it will show you the screens and the steps that you need to follow in the screens, and there'll be pop-ups of introduction. I'm just going to exit out of the content and come back to the main page because I want to very quickly show you the learning rooms in here as well. So again, back to the main menu at the top, and I've got another option which is learning rooms. And if I go into the learning room, again, you can select these the same ways that we selected the content from the list in the first place. But the learning rooms themselves are hosted on SAP Jam. So here's the front screen for the learning rooms. And you can see I've got some pop-ups. There's a welcome room that I'm enrolled in already. I've got different types of learning rooms. So this is the list of them. Over here, I've got on the right-hand side the ones that I've recently been in. So I've been in the welcome learning room. I've been in, let's go into the S4HANA overview room. So this is a very typical layout of a learning room. We have a home page with a welcome introduction. We've got then quick links to learning maps, to the question and answer section, to the events, and we've got the interaction with the gamification with the missions. So here are the missions for this particular room. You can also navigate to these using the tabs at the top of the page. But typically, with the learning maps, what the instructor will do is make some suggestions for this particular area as to what you should follow. and include in here some additional information that they might have done themselves. So in the topic overview, you can see that there's a video there's a couple of videos being loaded here already. There's a pointer to a flipbook which is in the content itself. Over on the middle column, I've got a demo. I've got a link to some specific information. So that could be a link to an external web page. Over on the right-hand side, there's some PDFs there as well. So there can be lots of different pieces of information in a learning map. In the Q&A section, this is where you can pose your questions. So you can ask questions. You just click on the Ask a Question page, and either the instructors, the moderators, or other people, other members of the room can respond to your questions. You can see down over on the right-hand side, there's a carousel of the instructors for this particular room and that maintain this room. And then further down, you'll find the filed questions, the questions that have been answered already. And you can see from this room over on the left-hand side that we have a lot of members. This is the S/4HANA overview room, and it's got nearly 5,500 members. So that's a lot of resource that can help you with your questions when you pop in on here. And then one more thing to point out to you is the events page. So there are typically, from time to time, the instructors in the room will run live sessions, and you'll see these advertised in advance. So here you can see that there's an upcoming live session, OpenSAP data migration to S/4HANA. You can register for the event, and then you can go and watch it. Potentially, if there are any recorded sessions, they will typically appear underneath, and you've got a link here to go to the event so that you can go and see some of those recordings. So I appreciate that was a very whistle-stop tour. I'm just going to hand back to Lee now, I think. Lee, if you'd like to take us through to the next piece.
Of course. Thanks, Caroline. Thank you for the presentation and demo. We'll just open up the floor for any questions from the audience. Any questions at all, you can just put them in the chat box, and I'll read them to Caroline. Any questions at all? All right. While we're waiting for questions, Robin, would you like to mention the upcoming user group promotion?
Thank you very much, Lee, and thanks, Caroline, as well, for sharing your knowledge on Learning Hub. It was very interesting. Just with regards to the UK and Ireland SAP user group, we will be running our next campaign on Learning Hub, which will start in March, but everyone is able to register their interest with us now. So if anyone is interested with regards to renewing your license or even getting new licenses, you can email us at support@sapusers.org, and then we'll be able to add you onto that list, and further information will be available in March for that. So that's for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robin. So if we don't have any more questions, oh wait, we do have one. Someone says, my frustration with Learning Hub is the inability to print the materials. Will there be any updates? What's your view, Caroline?
Okay, so the point of the Learning Hub is, of course, that it is an online solution and offline in the sense of mobile. So if you want to print a specific page because you'd like to do something with the diagram that's on there, for example, and then you can do that. You can print individual pages from within the manuals themselves. The e-learnings, of course, that's a little different because it's an e-learning. But there are no plans to make the whole of the manual printable, and that isn't something that's supported at this time, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Caroline. We have a few more questions. You can actually open the questions as well yourself, but is there an app for the SAP Learning Hub for Android?
So there is the capability to use the offline, can't speak today, use the offline consumption via Android. So if you go into either the Learning Hub itself or go onto the Training Shop webpage for the Learning Hub, you'll find information in there. So there's a document that talks about all the mobile and the access, and it gives you all the relevant current information for both Android and iOS. Yes.
Some more questions, Caroline. Can you see those?
Yes, I can. So how do we register for exams? I can see that one as well. So with the registration for the exams, that will have to be done via the training webshop itself. You can't do that within the Learning Hub per se. So a couple of options. You can go directly to the training webshop, so training.sap.com, or you can click through from the learning journey. If you get to the relevant certification that you want, you can click through from that learning journey, and that will take you also to that specific certification within the web shop itself. Now, there are a couple of different methods. So if we're talking about cloud certifications for the cloud products, so for example, we might be looking at SuccessFactors, or you might be looking at some of the newer S4HANA. Some of those cloud certifications are available via the Certification Hub, and the Certification Hub allows you to take certifications remotely rather than coming to the training centre. Some of the older certifications, or most of the older ERP certifications, the classic ones, for those you have to sign up for them and either come into the training centre, or in many of the countries we also run those certifications via Pearson VUE. So you can get a voucher and go and attend the exam at a Pearson VUE centre as well. Can we put the ebooks on Kindle? I think that's a no for the moment, not as far as I'm aware. Is there an option for normal Apple Mac? Is this the same place as the iOS Android options? That's a good question in terms of the Apple Mac. So I think what you might need to look at is the way you're browsing in the Apple Mac. It's not the same as the iOS Android, but any information, yes, would be in the same place, because that is the technical documentation page. But in terms of using an Apple Mac, that's obviously a different way to access the internet from a PC rather than a mobile device. So it is slightly different. It won't be in the same document as the iOS Android. You'll need to look more at the technical documentation for access via a PC and browser settings, but it should be in there. Okay, what's the next one? How do we keep people motivated enough to complete a course without being overwhelmed with the amount of content? Good question. Very good question. So there are a couple of things in there. First of all, one of the things that I would say is try and get a learning map, a learning approach before you start, or when you're initially starting. And by that, what I mean is either look at following a learning journey, or make a map yourself for the things that you want to follow, first of all. And then load those, and only those, into your learning list. And then you're not overwhelmed by the 4,000 to 5,000 pieces of content that you're having to browse through all the time. You've only got that finite list to get through. And maybe you only load those one or two at a time. So that would be my first recommendation. In terms of then sort of keeping going with them, I find, and it does depend based on the individual, but I find it's easier to do the learning if you set some specific time away to do it each week. So whether that be on your journey to and from work, when you're not being bothered with emails and people popping by at your desk, whether that be moving away from your desk into a room in order to do your learning, whether that be with the approval of your manager, obviously, to have an afternoon a month where you stay at home and you learn from home. I think the key thing is to keep focused on it, to not be distracted, and that way you will move your way through the learning. With the e-learnings, there are little test your knowledges, and at the end there are assessments, so you can test yourself to make sure that you have, understood everything and kept up to date. But other than that, if it's a whole program, then certification is a great way. Very satisfied once you've taken the certification and passed it. But then the other thing is obviously to embed the learning as part of goals. I hope that answered the question.
Caroline, from the bottom, so we would like to know if the SAP configuration building blocks are available in the Learning Hub.
Not sure what you mean by the SAP configuration building blocks. There are courses that cover configuration, absolutely. There are standard basic sets of configuration covered in the courses if you follow, for example, the courses that are relevant for associate certification, and that will give you the base amount of configuration that you need to configure that particular area of the system. If that wasn't the question that you were asking, can you post it?
I will also be. I can follow up. No worries. I will connect you to the person who asked the question. Okay, we'll take just a few more, and if we don't have time, then I will follow up and connect Caroline to anyone who asked questions. But can you take one or two more, Caroline? If that's okay.
Is there a site license for the Learning Hub? No, there's not. Unfortunately, it's a named user approach. You can buy more than one license at once, that is true, but in terms of a full-on site license, no, we don't do it that way for the Learning Hub. Can't find the learning journey for the specific area that is, so somebody's looking for SAP Business Planning and Consolidation Embedded Solution for a learning journey for it. I think what you'll find is you'll find it in the Business Planning and Consolidation learning journey. So Embedded Solution is a component part, or the next generation, if you like, of the SAP Business Planning and Consolidation. There is a course for it, but there isn't a whole learning journey for it. So look for the BPC learning journey, and you'll find the Embedded Solution in there. Is there an index of courses available before you subscribe? Yes, there is. There is a content catalogue. I think the link for that is in this slide deck already. If it's not, we will share that as well with you. The catalogue is an Excel file of the list with a complete set of content.
Thank you, Caroline. We have to go. We'll follow up with the questions. Thank you for your time, everyone. Have a lovely day. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.